Hello, everyone. Glad to see you. Uh, had a little computer issue there for a few minutes. Didn't know if I was going to make it or not. If you would, in chat, give me a one showing that we have some sound. I'm having to use a different computer than that. And as we start the morning watch and see the crew come in here tonight, but got a little bit of delay here. So if you can hear me, just show me a one. Excellent. All right. But tonight we're just going to be covering a little bit of everything with our crew, as always. If anyone has any questions, just ask away about almost any topic. But we'll be focusing a lot on what's going on with the Murdoch trial in South Carolina. And we'll say hello to our people as they come in here. I got Lisa, good to see you. Mitchell, Madison, Rocky Mountain Girl, or Gal, and Jocelyn, and good to see y'all. But as always, for anyone that's new to the channel, hasn't been here before, do a little bit of introduction. I'm Steve. I'm a retired law enforcement officer. Had 20 years of service. Started working in the jail, went on the road, and then into investigations. During those 20 years, had all different types of training from SWAT to becoming a state certified crime scene technician. And I worked all different types of cases, from thefts, burglaries to homicides. And after I retired, discovered the true crime world and decided to become a ambassador for law enforcement. And that's brought me here today. And with that being said, we'll get into some what we're going to be looking at tonight. Of course, with the Murdoch homicide, that Alec Murdoch is on trial currently for the homicides of his wife and son. And that happened in June of 2021. Of course, the clothing and the testing that we have been doing on this case, and Chris has been assisting me on creating some content. And I go up and do the test, ship him the videos, and because there's so much on this case, and it's so grounded with what's going on right now with the prosecution starting to wind up its case, and have they proven it, and lacking DNA. And that's something that almost all trials now are, everyone's so accustomed to the CSI, and they want that DNA. And part of this grand jury testimony that got the indictment is coming to light now that the officer that presented that case had some information he presented that he has since become aware of that didn't correctly tell the full story. And what would that mean to a jury? And we're about to find out. And if the prosecution can recover from the investigators' testimony today, because the defense brought out some evidence that has been that they won't have the opportunity to or didn't have the opportunity to have their own experts look at, due to that the way the state processed it. And so they are not able to have their own experts look at it in the same light. And we'll see how far the defense takes it. And there's a lot of opportunity for the defense to come after them in the coming days, because this trial is just starting. It's a long way from being finished now. And we'll see exactly how far the prosecution pushes the failure to follow protocols, which I'm not a fan of. Crime scene investigations, we're supposed to be at using these technologies to their fullest and reporting the facts. And if you don't follow the protocols and you take shortcuts, it will come back to haunt you in the trial. And I believe that's what we're about to see with this Murdoch as they continue forward. But anyway, let's see what we get here. Let's see what we got here, everybody. Let's see who here. Get over here in the chat and see what's going on. Kathy, thank you about explaining the situation out at the kennels. It was so revealing. And I thought it was important that we understand, and I did some more tests today, some more controls of blood spatter, of high velocity and back spatter, especially working with a blue tarp, blue raincoat, and a white shirt. I've got the chemicals ordered to show you, since the defense brought up today about all the evidence that was introduced that Paul was wearing that night, his shoes, his shorts, but they did not introduce the shirt due to the fact that it is and has been damaged in the processing. And so I ordered the chemicals so I could take one of my shirts that has synthetic blood spatter introduced on it, and I'm going to destroy it to the point that it can't be processed, such as what the defense is complaining about, and rightfully so. There's a lot of different ways that you can process evidence, and decisions have to be made for certain reasons. And but could they have used other processes? Possibly, but everyone has to pick a process that they want to go with, and whenever it backfires, they have to live with whatever the ramifications are from processing it certain ways. And I like luminol, and if they'd used luminol, of course, it may have diluted, and there is a chance that certain overusage of certain types of luminol will damage DNA, but not in all cases. And it's how you use it and what type of luminol. And so we're going to see where that's going to go with. Let's see what else we got here. Hello, Susan and Paris. Mrs. Steve, actually, I had to wake her up a few minutes ago because, like I said, my computer went out. And for some reason, it told me that StreamYard no longer existed. And I know that's not the case. And so I had to find and get her computer up and going so I could be here tonight. Hello, Stephanie. Good to see you. Ladies' night on chat. That's fine. That's fine. I like ladies' night. I like any night. My mom told me to be respectful to all, and especially ladies, and I always have been. And this was something that was brought up earlier. A video can be taken on a phone anytime and then sent into Snapchat later. I have not seen any evidence that the Snapchat video was actually taken at the same time it was sent. Do you know? If I'm not mistaken, I did get to see this part of the testimony, and I believe that it was only a minute or two prior that the expert testifying that when the video was created, after its creation, a minute or two later, it was uploaded. And I'm saying that from my memory, but I believe that's what, and that's what I took it as, because as I watched it, it was noted. And in whose channel was it I was talking that was doing that, because they found that interesting also. So yes, it was just within minutes. All right. Jennifer, hello everyone. I just warned you I had a brain. Yes, you did. And MRI. And I know you're on some type of, Xanax. So it may not make sense. I talked to my son on the phone after hockey and I remembered none of it. Well, you go rest. I'm glad you're here, but take a rest. Take care of yourself. And I hope the MRI will come back absolutely that you're on the path of getting better real quick, because we need you real bad. Yeah, I hope that MRI, I've only had to have one MRI, I think, in my life so far. I hope that's all I ever have to have. And let's see here. Monique. Thank you for sharing your knowledge. Very interesting and valuable insight. I appreciate that. I was trained to do a certain job, and I try to do it the best of my abilities. You know, there as a CSI from when I first started, and I started before CSI was cool. It was just, you know, back in the late 80s, early 90s, I got my certification somewhere around 90 and 91. And we didn't have all the technologies that we have now. You know, we still couldn't even use digital photography in courts. And but that evolved, of course, and we're at where we're at now. And the technologies that are out there, and some of the chemicals, and most certainly some of the technologies and devices that are used, we had to, you know, rig it up. A lot of these different string holders and things, and levels, and we. I don't think that they even had lasers that were used in crime scenes at that time. Everything was string. We didn't have lasers that they do now, shooting for both trajectories and for blood spatter. That we just had to, you know, put nails in the wall and pull strings off of them. So it's been a lot of different things, and I like looking at some of the technologies. And I've ordered, actually this last week, I ordered some of the new stuff for me, so that as Chris and I go out and we work certain things, and I continue to do the experiments and the controls that I want to incorporate some of the technology, so y'all in my community can see how this stuff works. Jennifer says, yes, I'm super tired. Well, you should be. I mean, you've got a lot on you right now. You need to get better. Quick, quick, quick. I don't know. I missed it also. I was up there today. It'd been raining all day here in Georgia, and so towards as the witnesses out in the afternoon were being brought up, I was trying to get up there and get my control testing done, and so I missed what came out on the GM rep, and I don't know if they've got it in today or if it's going to be tomorrow. I did get to see a few minutes of the defense cross examination of the prosecution's investigator that was handling the case, and they absolutely opened up a lot of information and made great headway today for the defense, and trying to raise doubt. And I can see where the jurors will be questioning exactly how much evidence do they have against Paul. I mean, not Paul, but Alex and the homicide of Paul. Okay. Mr. C, this is from Ann. Murdaugh law enforcement body cam video surprised me. One man standing, two violently murdered victims. Guy says my loaded gun is over by my truck. Where I live, law enforcement would have had guy on ground and cuffed. And whenever you pull up and you don't have a reasonable understanding, I can see where you would. If you do pull up on a crime scene and you don't know exactly who everyone is. In this case, in this small community, the officer, 20-minute ride, and he's communicating with dispatch, and dispatch would be telling him that the father and husband came home and found the homicides, and that he's standing by. Officer gets there, of course, and he can see the victims, and then he can see the complainant at this time. That's who it is. This is complainant, the husband, Alex. And you can see the officer lift his shirt up and look at him, and then Alex instructs the officer that there's a shotgun over there. Every officer weighs the situation, sees the mannerisms, and has to make that decision. Am I by myself, and do I need to? What is the, how is he acting? What is going on? If he's aggressive, could it have escalated into a totally different direction? Absolutely. But the officer did not choose to go that route, and chose the way it went, and we see the end result of it. And but yes, each officer has to weigh certain information, and every call is handled by the training of that officer and how he evaluates certain factors, and that's just part of law enforcement. Some officers may have chosen to immediately get there, handcuff the individual, and place him in a car, and there's nothing wrong with that. And a lot of complainants understand that. You just advise them of the situation, and most people will understand exactly from the officer's standpoint. And if that officer had chosen to do that with Alec, that, I foresee that he probably would have went along with and said, "I understand, officer. I'll go sit in your car." And but like I said, every officer has to choose which way they're going to address that issue. Catatonic. Good morning from Ontario. I love that name, the way you spell it, catatonic. It's 12:15 a.m. here right now. It is here also. It's 12:22 now. But absolutely glad that you're here. This is exactly as where I'm at right now. I believe in my heart Alex is guilty, but I'm worried about a hung jury. I am with you 100%. A lot of advance or the advantage of being always innocent until proven guilty should be on the side of the defense, and it's there. And the prosecution, all the headway they'd made, I think today got flipped upside down. I don't know what's tomorrow, and I don't know where they'll go with it, but people are hesitating in the general population. And when you see them start hesitating, because all you need is one juror to say no. And so I'm with you that I'm worried about a hung jury also. Hello, Jeff. Good to see you. Oh, that's terrible that you're claustrophobic. Um, I I cannot imagine that. I'm not. I used to go spelunking, and for people that don't have never been spelunking, that's going into caves. And I've been in some very tight, hairy situations in caves, and haven't done it in many years. But when I was younger, I enjoyed it. But not only are we going to be, of course, they're looking at the clothing. They don't have all the clothing on Murdoch. And I was watching, they had that third interview that came up today during the trial, and I got to see a few minutes of it. And then on Chris's show tonight, I've got to watch this video. And while he's sitting in the police car, and this was interview was well after the homicides. It's when the law enforcement officer is sitting there, and, or the investigator, and Alex is recounting his thoughts of what and his movements that night. And he said, "I went back to the kennels." And you can say, okay, he lives there. Those are his kennels, and he went back to the kennels. And it's very important that we try to figure out what context he meant it in. The way and the ease and talking about that evening, I could see, and I may be a little bit biased, but he said, I went back to the kennels. And I can see, hopefully, you know, the prosecution is going to play that from their standpoint. It's exactly that. He was there earlier, which he denies he was at the kennels and he was taking a nap. But I took it that it was just a Freudian slip, and but I may be biased. And of course, Chris, when we was doing the recreation and putting the items and the shell casings in positions to see the shooting positions, I think that's going to play out to be pretty true. And I hate that the expert on the blood spatter that he's created such a thing, and of course his testimony won't be heard because of it is a mess, and I hate that for the prosecution. And for whatever reason, I don't understand how this day and time that you wouldn't find someone properly qualified that has gone to courts before and analyze and be prepared for this trial, especially when you have no DNA. You're going to need an expert on the stand to make it clear to a jury to understand exactly everything about that crime scene, from the shell casings to the blood spatter or the absence of blood spatter, and they failed to do that, and that's what concerns me about this case. All right, let's see. Try to keep up with chat here too. And Catatonic, yes, if it wasn't for that video, and that's the only thing, if it wasn't for that video, there would be no trial now. It's going to be, what does the jury weight, how much weight do they give that video? Because without it, we wouldn't even be in the midst of a trial. And I agree. I think he's with Jennifer. I believe he's guilty, but you know, he played a part in it. I just don't know what part he played, and that's concerning. He's a devious guy, and I believe he is 100% guilty. That's what Karen says, and I agree. I believe he is, but I just don't know if he's the one that pulled the triggers, and that is important to that we'll find out in the when the judge, after we see all the prosecution and we see the defense, the charges that the judge gives the jury. And I don't know exactly the South Carolina law, but it'll be clear when the judge charges a jury and tells them to go back and deliberate, that if it's not part of the South Carolina laws that him masterminding the homicide is part of it, then they may have a hard load that to carry and for the convincing the jury. But if because if they say that he has to be the trigger man, basically, and I don't know if they've proved that Alex is the trigger man. I believe he's responsible, but I don't know if I don't have a good feeling that they've proved that he's the trigger man. Did they ever search the mother's house and property? Today, the investigators said the GPS showed Alex behind the house at the shop. You know, I think part of the testimony today is that they've never, I don't know if this is the property, there's one properties they've never searched because it's so huge, which is no excuse. And they never searched it that night because he wasn't a suspect, which I found strange. because they took his shorts and they took his shoes and they took his shirt. And if he wasn't a suspect, why would they take that? And then they didn't, and they had, he told them you could search whatever you wanted to. And they made choices. And then they made that statement today. And I thought uh, the defense, while they were asking that of the investigator, was going to unload on him, but he didn't, because I can imagine if I was up there, I would know what the next question would be. That if he wasn't a suspect, why'd you take his clothes, his shoes, and all of this? And I would have had to come up with a real good answer, and I don't know what that answer would be. Stephanie, I haven't been following the Murdoch case, getting ready to have knee replacement. Goodness, you get better too, also. Goodness. Andrea Burgess. Good evening, everyone. I'm new here. We're glad to have you here, Andrea. I appreciate you coming by and supporting the channel, viewing it, and I hope you subscribe. And I hope and if you ever have any questions, ask them, and we'll try to answer them. And everybody in chat, I have a great community. They're very respectful, and I'm very proud of them. Yes, Jeff, this is he's had, I saw one in an interview room, and I've seen 2 interviews in a vehicle. So I agree with you. 66% of the time, he's been interviewed in vehicles. So I go along with it. But Jeff says the investigation team is questioning AM in the vehicle, not in the interrogation room. Very odd. Not only that, it gives Alex the edge on looking at the investigator's notes to make up lies as they go. And that was a strange mannerism that he had as he was looking. You can see his eyes shift over there. And I just don't know if that's part of his natural habit. A lot can be made of it either way, but I agree with you. I can see the night of, absolutely, talking to him in the vehicle because it's raining. And I don't have a problem with that at all. But every interview since then, I don't think I'd ever gotten in a car with him again, unless he needed a ride to the office, and would have been the only time I would have given him a ride. That and during the rest. Goodness, catatonic. Keep yourself safe. I separated my shoulder on the 1st and wiped out last night on an electric scooter. I'll send you some bubble wrap. Goodness, ladies. We might be ladies night, but y'all are rough on each other and rough on yourselves. Goodness. And I agree. There is that, and that's the strongest evidence they've had, and I wish they had focused, and they may start focusing more on it here in the last hours of the prosecution. And like I said, if it wasn't for that video, we wouldn't even be here. And the first video of him planting the trees and what clothing he wore, and the way that the prosecution has put all the pieces of the puzzle together, hasn't been stellar. It's been, I can't imagine sitting there. We have the ability of being able to research and watch other creators and watch and talk amongst ourselves and have opinions. The jury doesn't have that ability. They only get what's given to them in those few short hours per day, and jumping, and they can't even take notes, and it's jumping from one subject matter to another. And can the prosecution focus upon certain things too much, and the jury miss the audio and the video and how important that is. Um, and and I hate that that's the possibility, but it is a possibility. Oh no, I never do that, Steve. Get rest. Yes, do that. Oh, you're talking about spelunking. Yeah, I was in some places that I thought, this isn't the smartest thing that a grown man should be doing, but I enjoyed it. Actually, caves are sometimes full of artifacts. We have a cave, um, and like I said, I was a CSI guy, and some young men were in a cave, a local cave, and they came out with a skull. And so, of course, we had to go back in, and not all the officers would go in. I could, even of my crime scene team, they didn't like going in, but we went in and went to the location to find and look at the area where they recovered that skull. And of course, we had to send it off, and it was it, it was from one of the tribes, I believe, from hundreds of years ago. And it happened to be that these kids were digging in a cave and they dug up a skull, and just absolutely amazing. But we had to we turned that artifact over to the tribes for proper uh, burial rites and things. Seems like the defense might be going to suggest Mrs. M was the first victim. Apparently, their experts may have alternate scenarios. If that's the case, I've got to see that, for the fact that how can you control? You have to have, and I can see why they would do that. And the reason they would do that is that if you make Mrs. Murdoch as Maggie as the first victim, you have to have two offenders, because someone has to control Paul, because he's not going to sit and stand inside the feed room while someone's out there shooting at his mother. And I can see why they would do that. And do I believe it? No, I believe Paul was first. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been in that feed room. I don't even think Paul would have stayed in that feed room, being held at gunpoint. And that may be the exact point that they bring up, that while someone is out there shooting his mother, I do not think that he would stand by. And and if the jury buys that alternate theory, then of course we have two shooters, and then we have that brings in a question. So I would assume that this is probably the path, and good observation, and on your part, that more than likely. I hadn't seen it of what I thought which way they're going to go, but it would make sense that they would do that. Razor says the lead prosecutor seems great, but the rest of the team is lame. Um, I I think that I agree with that pretty much. Some of them are not uh, as keen edge as the lead prosecutor. Let's see, get caught up here right quick, rush through here. I hope I don't miss anybody's questions. And Kerry, I feel like there's so much evidence, but the prosecution is not doing well enough at all. They made a great boom moment and then panned away. I agree with you. Pigeon Mac, good to see you. And Kathy, I come from a law enforcement family. I look at witnesses' credibility. I just don't understand lying, trying to tell people to put doubt in others' testimony. Yeah, and the jurors are going to weigh each testimony, but it's never good when the defense brings up and they from law enforcement perspective. And you know, I respect law enforcement. I did, and I work with 99% of the more than 99% of the officers I work with were absolutely men and women of great integrity. But there were a few of them that went off and served time. But and the but even officers that have great integrity, if they don't follow protocols and procedures to properly handle evidence, it's not a good look. And the defense is going to make and do a lot of things with that. And I hate that for those officers that said, oh, no, we didn't follow protocol, or no, we didn't do this or do that, or we processed it in certain ways. I hate that for them. And law enforcement will look at that, and hopefully they will learn from it. Okay, let's see here. Connie Cat, the defense has a footwear expert coming in. Is there any evidence of footprints that could be another shooter? I thought every print was accounted for. I saw that tonight, and that thought occurred to me, and I didn't know who the next experts were coming in. But when I was watching and understanding how much of the concrete was washed down, and I made a comment on Chris's show about that. Did the offender see that when he was there after committing the homicide of Paul, and due to all the blood and did he possibly step into a pool of blood and leave some identifiable footprints? And was that what all the washing was about? That, of course, he may have washed off himself also, but washing from one end of the concrete to the other down to where the water hose is there some type of footwear that's on that concrete? And has the defense gone and found some footwear patterns? Because a footwear expert has to be testifying about footwear something. And what do they have? And I mean, if they're just, if they don't have something, I don't know why you would even need a footwear expert. There has to be something that he's going to identify or say that these are the footprints of the offender, and they don't match the shoes that he's wearing. And does the defense have those shoes? So I'm looking forward to that. Do you think Cousin Eddie was a trigger guy? He may have played a part in it in the early days of maybe not trigger, but he could have played a lot of parts in either getting rid of evidence, and he's the go-to guy that Alex would have trusted. And Lisa, I agree with you. He's not going to get out of jail. He all the financial stuff. He's um, let's see. Yeah, I agree. There's certain things, and they should have went and done more searches and things. Investigations, they're difficult, and it's easy for us to all sit back here and Monday morning quarterback and on these cases and things and be critical, and I hate that I am. but I just hate to see someone in the profession that takes such a, you know, when you have an officer says, no, we didn't use rulers, we just took pictures. We don't know what the foot impression on her leg is. And then we have that there's certain reports and evidence has been mishandled. And so we have to look at that. Oh, look at here. Madison Stevens, $10 Canadian super sticker. Thank you for your support. Appreciate that. He's so upset he went on vacation to go golfing. I would, there's a possibility he did more than golfing on that vacation. Jennifer says blue. So absolutely. I'm getting better at it. Thank you. I get caught back up here. Why isn't the jury allowed to take notes? I always assumed they were allowed. From what I've seen of the coverage, they say they're not allowed in this one. And is that because some people sometimes will shorthand and they'll not write down the complete and take things out of context? And this judge in this court wants it only done from memory. Appears to be the direction that they're going. Do you think AM had help with this? Yes. He has help in some shape, form, or fashion. The timeline is so short and narrow, and I believe it was planned for the fact he turned his phone off. If he hadn't have turned his phone off, then of course we might say it wasn't planned. It was just a spur of the moment. But for him to turn that phone off, and then be able to get rid of and the clothing and the guns and the I believe it was planned, and I just don't know who assisted him, but I do believe that there is somebody else involved. Sean, hey Steve, just caught you, didn't know you were on. I'm glad you're here, bud. The Bible group, the Dead Sea Scrolls were found in caves. Absolutely. Good to see you, Bible group. And there's been far more cases solved on circumstantial evidence than DNA currently. And because prior to DNA, you had either you always had certain types of evidence, or you had circumstantial, and that was the majority of the cases back then. Stephanie, caves have bats. No, I understand. I don't know. Yeah, I did. I saw a few of them. Man, you mentioned it. One who sees. Good to see you here tonight. Glad you're here. Um, they mentioned Alex's golf club bag. He had to get it out of the vehicle later after the murder. My theory now leans towards Alex hiding the rifles and evidence in the golf bag quickly. Hmm. Interesting. Ah, Karen, there's your blue light. Appreciate it. Thank you for uh, uh, your donation. They needed a good female attorney. Um, the prosecution, they have a female attorney, but I see you qualified it as a good, and I don't know if she's good or not. I haven't seen her and working much on it, and I don't know what the defense has. I haven't been able to see a lot of the trial. Okay. You're not aligned there. Tunnel vision is enemy of a lot of things, including investigations. And I did notice that, Jeff, that how Alex was touchy when the female law enforcement was talking to him and asking questions. He did make a snap remark there, um, and it does show some part of your uh, character of not respecting women. Those footprints are going to have to be in the feed room where the son was first shot. Law enforcement stopped right and everywhere else, and they were even in that room too, and then out. And we will see the defense make a lot of that. How many footprints were destroyed by this handling of the investigations of that they didn't set corridors that to get from this area to this location, that you just walked across a broad area, and that you didn't have a set so that you, if there was, and I don't know what the surface was out there, and if it was just rock and gravel, and there may be video of them doing a line search as they walked up and identified everything. Um, we only have a few minutes of what type of occurrences occurred during that time frame, so we don't have everything, and where all they walked. But they'll have to explain that, and the defense, of course, will bring it up because I don't know if there's any dirt there. I don't know what the surface is in that part of the area. I don't know if there's some soft ground that could have been some foot impressions left. And if there is some sandy or soft ground, the defense will bring that up and say that, yes, where these people were rushing around, chasing after each other, and there's some uh, all different types of ways that the defense may have phrased that to get their point across. Um, so we'll just have to see how they approach it. And I know they mentioned the on the pants or on the leg area of or whatever clothing she had on, that there was something that the defense was referring to that could have been a shoe print, and that's where the I think her name was Worley. She was the CSI that was handling the case, that took a picture of it but didn't introduce a scale so that you don't know exactly what that marking is. Um, well, if the evidence handled right, the marking should still be there. And did the defense take it, put it to scale, and have identified it as a shoe print? And if they have, is that the shoe prints expert that's going to say that's not that shoe? This shoe belongs to a certain brand, much like the OJ case. Um, Mr. Steve, when examining a scene like this, do you use various degrees of lighting to duplicate the crime environment? Yes, you'll. Whenever you go, of course, the first analysis of any crime scene is with your eyes as you approach it from long range and work your way in slowly to fully understand all the angles and possibilities. And as you take that briefing from that officer of what's going on, what's happening, who is reported, and what has been reported. And as you approach it and you get up there, and then you can always go back that if the crime scene happened in total darkness, that you'll go and you'll look at it, you'll turn the lights off, and then you'll turn on the lights and see what are all the possibilities. That if this set of lights is on, what does that mean? Is the feed room lights on? Um, and So there's a lot of, looking at it from all different types of angles. But yes, you would. Not only that, but some evidence pops out better in certain types of lighting situations just from your handheld flashlight, getting some of those angles and seeing some of the shadows, especially on footprints, that you might have been able to see that you can only see in low light conditions with a flashlight held at a certain angle. And catatonic, yes, I believe there's some help on some level, absolutely. They also said they found all kinds of people's DNA down there, so it stands to reason there would be all kinds of footprints there. Yes, and not only that, but when you have all these people that are walking around um, coughing and doing what law enforcement do or does in certain situations, that there's a lot of opportunity for DNA to be there. Ah, look here. Here's Chris, the mob crew. We're just talking about you earlier. I was watching your show and I was able to see a new perspective of some of the interviews and stuff. He says, hello, chat. Y'all get a chance, and I'm sure that all of you know of Chris, and I look forward to working with him this year. And he's been absolutely vital in getting me to the position I'm in currently, and I thank him. Uh, Triple S, after seeing what they saw, I'm not surprised they were shaking off their game. This week we were studying what data autopsies provide, and the visuals are nightmare fuel. So I take it that you're in studies and are looking at um, a lot of different situations and um, certain uh, timelines of death and of different humans. And there's nothing pretty about what time and does to the human body, especially in the outside environment. So um, wish you well in your studies. Yep. Outdoors, animals and things are not kind to humans. Christian, I want to see Eddie. Let's see here. At the time Alex said he went to his mother's house, the investigation wasn't at a point that they had probable cause to search the mother's house. Um, and, you know, and that's something that probable cause is very easy to um, formulate and to express to a judge to get a search warrant. It doesn't take a lot. You have a scene where there's two victims. You have um, one of the victims that has a catastrophic injury that is from a shotgun. You have an individual that's standing within 20 feet of a shotgun when you arrive. Um, and So it would have been, you know, uh, reasonable uh, to get a search warrant if they needed it. Although they didn't need it, you had a individual that was given his consent, and consent searches are just as good as um, a, a court-ordered search warrant. You just have to be a little bit more watchful and allow the persons whose property you're searching every opportunity to withdraw that consent. And but even without probable cause, you could have, with his consent, searched anything you wanted. Mitzi, $3 super sticker. Thank you. Appreciate your support. He had 45 minutes before the murder to prepare his clamp getaway before committing. Yes, I agree with that. Let's see. Wonderful people. Darn autocorrect. I can tell you about some of my text messages autocorrect that I'll send it and then I look at it and I say, oh my goodness, can't believe I did that. Alex most likely knows as a judge and prosecutor from the local Masonic Lodge. This will skew the outcome, in my opinion. And Masonic Lodge is a huge part of Southern and of all cultures across the United States. And I know Bible groups mentioned them several times. And he asked me one time that had I ever arrested anyone from the Masonic Lodge, and I'm sure I have. But you know, everyone has certain organizations they belong to, and I never weighed one way or the other, regardless of what clubs they belong to or not. It never entered my thoughts. Let's see here. Gary, I should become a lawyer. Absolutely. Steve, can't you call prosecution and give them some points to be bringing up? They're just not seeing it. No, everyone has to live by whatever strategy they go through, and they sat there and they took it to a grand jury, and this is the evidence they want to bring up and how they want to proceed. Um, they would just hang up the phone on me. But I was talking to Chris earlier. I was sending him a text, and I felt better about what we had brought forth and illustrated. That was, I thought, a lot clearer than what the financials and the back and forth that the prosecution did, which, of course, I'm biased. Yeah, you're right about the footprints. Plus, it started raining that night just as law enforcement arrived at the scene. And on the screen currently is the booties I wore when I walked around the synthetic blood that I created when I shot the mannequins um, and with the ballistic gelatin. And walking around it, you can see the booties just walking um, in not pools of blood, but just in the areas that had some of the uh, uh, gelatin, the ballistic gelatin that was scattered around the scene. Didn't step directly on it, but just on the blood spatter, and you can see that there's plenty of in the luminol picture of the synthetic blood that reacts with luminol just like blood does. And you can see the booties clearly had a lot of transfer onto them. But Jennifer, you go get you some sleep. I'm glad you were here tonight, and you take care of yourself. And I look forward to seeing you, and hope you get better soon. Let me keep up with chat here, trying to keep up with everybody. A lot going on. Ava Hawkshaw, hey all, good to see you. Yeah, humans are not kind to humans either. That's correct. Mother Nature's not kind to us, and like I said, the animals and the time and the elements and the environment are very harsh on humans, especially when they're deceased. Mr. Steve, I love to watch trials live, but I'm beginning to think cameras are not a good influence on proceedings. All start acting may be included jury, like it's got to be CSI, no doubt. Um, no, I'm for, just my personal opinion. I believe that all people should have access to see um, these individuals that are facing the trial and see what evidence either is exculpatory and or that is condemning, and and that would lead a jury to convict someone, and we'll have a better understanding. And like I said, the jurors, they only get to hear what the judge allows them to hear from the arguments of the prosecution and the defense. And sometimes there's some critical information that just can't be brought in, either because of the 403 hearings or the 404 hearings that is it's just too prejudicial to the outcome, and so don't know. Let's see what we got here. And get caught back up here, guys. Catatonic autocorrect is great. Yeah. And UT WAB 1950, the Snapchat video was uploaded within minutes being filmed. And I thought that was testimony I heard. Oh my God, I hope everything was okay. Yes, man. One thing I've always wanted to see is a tornado in person. I will remind me to tell you about some of my recoveries from tornadoes. Not nice. Not. Yeah. Tornadoes are not friendly to humans either. All right. Bond Girl, 1305, 1999. Appreciate it. Thank you. Appreciate your support. It means a lot to us. Glad to have you here. That is absolutely awesome. Um, if it doesn't snow, I may be leaving Sunday. So I'll be going up north. Monger, I wonder where he put the clothes that he was wearing when he shot Maggie and Paul. And that may be some of the stoppages on the roadway. I don't know how long those stops and what the locations were. Did he meet somebody at an intersection? Did he meet somebody that was standing alongside the road at another vehicle? Was there someone there at the same time that the homicides occurred? And there's just so many unknowns. At least I live about 45 minutes from Delphi. Yeah, actually, I'm going to be up in Muncie and Kokomo in the next, if the weather holds, I will be up there probably next week. Steve, if you were a juror, would you convict Alex with all the testimony so far? When I saw the video and I heard that testimony, I would currently be leaning towards convicting him for the fact that he has to explain his taking a nap or not remembering certain aspects of whatever was going on that evening. But now if they bring in some type of expert that can explain away some type of memory loss or something, and I'm not, as a juror, knowing everything, and they bring in someone that can explain stresses and things, I can see where a juror might find that not that he's absolutely innocent, but we don't have enough to prove that he's guilty. And I can see that. And that's the scary part. Sitting here looking at it with all the knowledge and the biases and everything, no, I wouldn't set him free. I believe he's absolutely responsible for the deaths of Paul and Maggie. Absolutely. He's responsible for them, in my opinion. And of course, everybody, he has to be considered innocent until proven guilty. It appears that he is responsible for it from what I've seen, and but will a jury find that? Don't know. Um, since it was wearing a short sleeve shirt, there would have been blood spatter on his hands and his arms, possibly his face. I wonder where he washed it off. Absolutely, blonde girl. The test I did today that Chris and I were discussing, and you will see exactly how much blood spatter, because I created what I wanted to do today to show you what can absolutely occur in the worst case scenario of a catastrophic injury with a lot of blood, such as what the cranial vault contains. And it was pretty revealing. And I look forward to getting with Chris on that this week and showing him. Oh, one who sees. Steve, you're doing a great job keeping up with chat. I'm trying. I'm trying to learn this new platform, this late night, early morning stuff. Trying to keep everybody as attentive as I can. All right, Chris, he's got to go to bed. I hope. Thanks, Steve, and everyone here for the support. Absolutely, I appreciate it, Chris. Let's see here. Pigeon Mac. I chased a tornado one time in a patrol car. It beat my blue lights off, beat my antennas, broke my tail lights, and my patrol car looked like a golf ball. The hail that fell was as big as softballs. It was a Palm Sunday tornado supercell that came through Alabama and Georgia. Absolutely was unbelievable, the number of tornadoes and the damage that occurred. Never want to see that again. Notice how Alex always wears a white shirt under his long sleeve button-up shirts. Wonder if that was the attire he had on to prevent spatter, and then removed it and discarded it, cleaned up the remainder. Um, I did a white t-shirt today. Um, Mrs. Steve doesn't know it yet, but I've gone through a pack of white t-shirts this week, and so I've got to go out and buy some new t-shirts, and so because she won't let, I doubt that she'll let me wash, especially what happened today. She won't let me wash that. Um, Steve, are you working on Dylan rounds? I have spoken to the family, and I've spoken with Chris, and Chris is talking with the family, and we have certain plans. I don't know what all the plans will be, but if the family wishes us to, I absolutely would do, and whatever Chris and I can do if he wishes to, and if the family wants us, we absolutely will do whatever we can on that case. I heard some information about something about a cooler in the back of his vehicle. Lisa says that she's 25 minutes from Kokomo. I don't know how y'all maneuver up there and get from place to place. When I was there at one point, with all the corn before it was harvested, every intersection looked the same. Of course, they had little numbered road signs, but I couldn't get from one place to the other. Lisa, 499 off to bed for me. Appreciate all your hard work and knowledge. Thank you. Appreciate it. Appreciate your support. And I'm with you, Ava. That the jury may be hung because they've painted a maze, and the jury can't even take notes. I can see where that could be, especially with the presentation of how it's going. And yes, there's no reasonable explanation. And but we we have to see what the jury thinks. And they and setting, and I've been there. That you go in, you present the case the best you can, and those moments of waiting. And I've been on both sides, winning and losing cases. Not everything is perfect. you and but it absolutely will aid you quick. Thank you. That's very nice of you to say, Casey. I'm doing good. Thank you. I'm not as good at this as some of those people. Will allowing the roadside events, this is from UT WOB 1953, will allowing the roadside events and testimony sway the jury. You know, it may sway the jury more towards the, um, um, you know, because defense, they came up with a good point today that that if you let Eddie in here, the one thing, and I can see with what their argument would be is that um, um, that Alex did not want to, and I can see how they're going to present it, that Alex did not want to continue living without his wife and child, and I can see that that's probably the way they're going to go with it. So I don't. they'll try to play upon those feelings, just like with the caretaker of the dogs that watered and fed them daily. He said that they were a lovey couple, and that was a great point for the defense, and they'll bring that up time and time again of how close a relationship they had. And so I just, I don't know how Cousin Eddie's going to weigh out on this stuff. And there's no better. It's so hard to understand. All evidence pointed to Casey Anthony. Yes, and look what happened with that. Who in the world? Absolutely, that's a great point. Okay. Lisa Jameson, this has been fun. I will catch you up on the next one. We are sure corn country here. Yes, y'all are. I've never seen nothing like it up there. Uh, and when it's right before harvest, I mean, you're riding down almost like tunnels. I've never seen anything like it. But now, when I got into Iowa, um, um, the amount of deer on the roadways is dangerous, and it's dangerous in Indiana, but not as dangerous as it was in Iowa. All right, I think I got caught up with everybody. I hope I kept everybody with the recognized everybody's contributions, and I want to thank everybody in chat tonight for being respectful and welcoming all the new people that were here. And I, it's absolutely amazing at my community, and I thank y'all so much. We've got a show later tonight that I'm going to be talking about some more of this trial and understanding what's coming up today. And then we'll have a show Saturday night. And if the weather is permitting, and I may not have my show the Sunday night morning watch because I'll be on the road, probably in Indiana, Iowa, and going up there to talk to some cold case families and things. And but that's what our plans for later in the week are. And but it just depends what happens later tonight up in Iowa and Indiana. They're supposed to have some type of snow. I just don't know how much. And if it's not much, I'm leaving Sunday morning. But we still got 2 more shows tonight and Saturday night. But y'all stay safe out there. Appreciate y'all being here tonight. It means a lot to me. And see y'all in probably what would it be, about 12 hours from 8 plus 6, about 18 hours. So y'all stay safe out there. Bye-bye.